Hi everybody. So I thought I'd do a short video on using the MGear rigging system for quadrupeds. It's actually very useful. I rigged the original digital creature animals with this, and it's been a while though, to be honest, since I've used it. The last time I actually rigged something with this was probably 2019, so it's been almost 4 years. So it's going to be a little bit rusty. I've downloaded the newest version, but I think it's kind of there percolating in the back of my mind, and let's see how fast we can get through this. So I'm going to go and I've got this lion that was one of the original lions that I did. And what I'm going to do is go up here to MGear, and I'm just going to tear this off. Now, a lot of the work we're going to do is in this section right here, the shifter menu. So I'm going to tear that off as well. And there is a Quadruped Auto Rig or a Quadruped Guide template already set up. So this is where we're going to start. We will have to add in things like a tail or ears, toes, that type of thing. Now, you don't have to use MGear to do all those things I just mentioned. You could just do your own rig and then kind of add it in. But I am going to see if I can use some of this stuff. And like maybe adding in a tail or ears. There are some other videos out there for doing those things also. So I'm going to use this guy, Y up. And he's coming in really tiny. So our tiger isn't a giant tiger. He's about 5 feet. Five and a half feet long from nose to the end here, to his hindquarters, not including the length of his tail. So there's an MGear guide group, and I'm just going to scale this up. And I'm going to scale it up to a point where, the legs are approximately the size I want them to be at, approximately. We are going to have to kind of move some stuff around a bit, but, this is approximately where things should go. I'm just going to kind of stop where, maybe around here, perhaps. Okay, and then I'm just going to go in, I'm going to delete some stuff. So I'm going to delete, let me just turn off geometry. I'm going to delete the right side elements. So I'm going to select the shoulder, which is this red box here. I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to select this leg. And I'm going to delete that. So anything that's on the right side. There's also these little controls here. I'm going to delete these guys too. So just the right side ones. We'll remirror these before we generate the skeleton. So remember, these are just like the locators from the auto rig. So these are essentially the guides that we need to place before the skeleton gets generated. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is start positioning things like the spine. So I'm just going to go in and, actually this should be probably, maybe just a little bit higher up. But for a quadruped, let's try to go a little bit through the middle of the geometry, just so the deformations will be equal roughly on either side, because I don't think we're going to be doing anything extra special with this, muscle simulations or anything like that. So just want to be careful with your deformations. We also want to be careful not to move this stuff left or right. We want to keep it right down the middle. Now what is this, the shoulder? Actually, the shoulder, it doesn't matter so much. Let's see, does this stuff? Yeah, so you've got to be careful with the central stuff, because we do want to keep it symmetrical. So I'm going to select the shoulder, and let's see here. I think in the scheme of things, that's probably about right. So our shoulder, this is kind of like the back or the scapula, somewhat. Alright, so I think something about like that. And then the shoulder, is probably around here. And then we've got our elbow. And now I want to keep these relatively equal in length, so I just got to be careful with this. So we've got our ankle, and then we've got here where it's going to bend from. And here, you know, to be honest, I'm not sure if this should just go straight out, or normally I would just put this down by the toes. So that's what I'm going to do. And then we've got these guys here. So this is going to go at the heel. And just the names are on there. We've got the balls. So the toes are going to get connected into here eventually. So we want to make sure this is on, you know, we don't want to pass the toes with this, so it needs to be before the toes. And this is going to be where if you were to go up on the tippy toes, this is where it's going to rotate from. So usually that's going to go on the ground here. So I'm going to match whatever this control is here. And what's this guy here? That's the out step. So before I can do the out step and in step, I am going to have to take this guy and move it in. Right? So it's going to go into the geometry here. And let me just turn on my x-rays. Now, ideally, with your cat character or your quadruped character, you know, from the front, your leg should be pretty straight, so, you know, you don't have to add any kind of twist or angle to this, but this one was modeled just slightly out, so I'm going to go and just rotate this ever so slightly inwards, so I can just match this stuff a little bit better. So this is the out step. It's going to go on the outer step of the foot. In step, I should say, and this is the out step. And it's going to go on the outer side of the foot. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Okay, we have to do the same thing for the back leg. So we just got to figure out, well, where's the hip? So it's probably around here, and then we've got the knee. Yeah, that's a bit high, so maybe around here, because these have to be relatively equal in length too. And that's going to be a bit higher, so wherever your ankle is going to go. And then this is going to go here, where that's going to bend. And this is going to go at the end of the toes here. And same thing. Now again, I would keep your leg straight if possible. This model, I'm not going to change this for this demo, but I'm just going to follow the geometry. And so that this stuff ends up being in the middle. I do have my translate set to object, so if I do have to move things around, I want to keep things relatively planar, so I can still kind of just use the handles to keep things planar. Okay, and then this stuff is very much the same, right? So it's going to go on the front up before the toes start. This is going to go at the bottom here. And maybe I'll do this from, I'll just use these handles. This is going to be the out step. This is the in step. And maybe I should have done the heel first, because, no, we're good. We're good. Something like around there, maybe. Cool. Alright, so far so good. Now we got the head. So the head is this guy. Now he's too big. I'm going to have to shrink that down a bit, but we also have the neck. So I'm going to grab the neck. So be careful when you're grabbing that, because you only want to grab the neck, not the head and the neck. There we go. Alright, so I'm just going to just be careful when you're moving it, because I don't want to move it left or right. I need it symmetrical. So I'm just using the handles here. And we've got a neck control here. So I'm going to move that down a bit. And I just want to make sure that's at the base of the head. Just going to line those up better. Follow the neck a little bit more. And then we have our head, which is this guy right here. And again, I'm just going to shrink that down just a little bit. And I wonder if I could just move that forward slightly. Probably not a good idea. What are these guys? That's a mouth. Alright, so I'm going to move that down here. Looks like a jaw. And here are the two mouth joints. Move those here. You may or not want to use these, to be honest, but maybe. You know, that's way too high actually for where that's going to rotate from. So this is this mouth section, so I'm going to bring this down to, you know, where the jaw kind of connects in around here. So maybe around here is good. Okay. So I'm not 100% sure if this is what you're going to want to use. It's a bit hit or miss sometimes. And then we have the eyes. So we got two eyes. I'm going to delete the one like we did with the legs. And scale it down. Move it forward. If I had an eyeball in here, which I don't, I would just match transforms. So modify match transforms just to snap it into place. But I'm just going to guesstimate approximately. So, you know, you want that in the middle of the eye. So this is kind of comparable to the eye socket type of joint. Okay. Let's see here. What's this guy do? Neck root. I think that could probably come back here a little bit more. Neck end. Yeah. So let me just kind of change this around a bit. Cool. Okay, I think that's it. So now I'm going to save. So file, save scene as, and let me see here. Minus guides, start. Cool. So next thing I want to do is just add into this. Now, this is where you're going to have some options. But it's all going to be done through the guide manager here. So I'm going to click on the shifter guide manager. That's going to open up. And there are some videos for doing tails, so there might be, you know, better options than following what I'm about to do. But I'm going to use which one here? Something. Let's see. Probably this chain here. And I'm not gonna build it. I'm gonna draw the component so it adds it in as a guide. So draw a component, and I want to point this way. So if my character is pointing in Z, this is going to be negative Z. I probably need at least 3 to like 5 to 8 joints. Maybe I'll just go 5 for now. Maybe 6. I lied. Spacing 1, we could always scale it, so that's fine. So okay. Well, I don't want to undo. I'm going to have to delete that because there's one other thing we need to do first. Right now, this is connected into the neck. I don't want that. I want this to be connected into the end of the spine here. So that would go in right here. Not here. Let me see. Where are you? Spine start root. Spine root. So I'm going to do it again. So draw components. And it doesn't remember, so you're going to have to put this in again. So negative Z and 6. There we go. We can give it a name, so I'll call it tail. And I'll just automatically give it the naming convention that it's used to. Stick with this naming convention, at least while you're building everything. Otherwise, it won't work, I'm pretty sure, because everything it does is going to be based off of the naming that the framework runs on. So I'm going to put this at the base of the tail, and I'm going to start rotating this into place. So I just want to rotate it in the one axis. Now, if your tail was perfectly straight out, which I would advise, this would be a lot easier to place, right? So I wouldn't suggest having the tail hang down like this, maybe. So a straight tail would be a lot better for you, probably. All right, so I'm going to go with that. That's pretty evenly spaced. Next thing I'm going to do is the ears. The tears. I have tears from rigging too much, I think. So ears. So I'm going to do a simple chain. And I'm going to draw the component. So for this, though, I'm going to select the head. Not the eyes, but the head. It's the neck. And here's the head right here. Head. And single chain, draw components. So 3, might be too much for something like this. You can go 3, maybe 2. It's going to be in the Y direction, so just straight up. Okay, and I'm going to take it. So it's automatically going to open this, so I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to call it ear. And you want to choose a side. So for the tail, we didn't have to do this. It was in the center, but for this, we do. So we're going to go left. When we mirror things over using the interface, it'll automatically label things left and right. So we'll be good for that. So I'm going to take this ear and move it over. And just scale it down a bit. Angle it in the same direction as this ear is. There we go, something like that, maybe forward a bit. Just want to follow the same angle and direction of the ear so that it'll bend in the same direction. So I think that's pretty good. All right, so that's good. So next thing I want to do is start adding in the toes. So the toes are going to go right into this guy right here for the front. And I'm going to do something similar, just a simple chain. So again, you're selecting what it connects to first, so it'll automatically get parented into the right spot. And three, these are really stubby toes, so 3 is probably okay. 2, you could probably get away with 2 even. We probably don't need more than that for these particular, unless you wanted to kind of go crazy, but I think 2 is probably okay. So positive Z and okay. And I'm going to start over here. And I just want to make sure it's in the middle of the geometry. So something like so. I'm just going to make sure I'm angling it accordingly. Right? That's not too bad. And we're going to label it, so I'll call this toes. It's the left side. Maybe just toe. It'll just automatically label everything for you in that hierarchy, so you're good. And I want to duplicate it. So for duplicating this stuff, we're going to be using this duplicate button, or you can use this duplicate button. These two do the exact same thing, but don't use the Maya duplicate. So I'm going to hit duplicate, and I'm going to shift that over. And this is going to become this toe here. So I'm going to scale this up a bit so it goes to the end. And I probably want these to be a little bit more in the middle here. So let me just lower this down slightly. Okay, and then with this guy selected, I'm going to go into here, into the Shifter Guide Manager, click on Settings, and then I can give it a new name. So this will be toe 2, which means this one should be toe 1. And you could call it, thumb or index, middle, ring, and pinky if you want. I'm just going to go toes 1 through 4. And there's a do clause, so you could put a rig in your do clause if you've got one. So this is toe 1. Oh, actually, make sure you're clicking on the root and then settings. It doesn't automatically update. So toe 1. Okay. I'm going to select toe 2, and I'm going to duplicate that again. And I'm going to shift that over and just make sure it's in the right place, following the arc of my foot. Okay, that's pretty good. And then the last, well, I should label this one as well, so settings. So this one's toe 3. And then the last one I'm going to do is going to be toe 4. So again, I'm going to duplicate that and shift this over. Scale it down just a little bit. And that's toe 4. See if I can do a better job here. A bit more of a gradual arc if possible. So toe 4. So I'm going to select that, click settings, and click toe 4. Good stuff. Cool. And I'm just going to repeat the process for these back feet over here. Now there's some different ones here. Let me see, chain. I guess that's the one I want. FK splines. Maybe this is okay for this thing. Okay, so we're just back to where I was. Not cable. Okay, so I'm going to save. Cool. And let's continue on. So I'm going to select this guy. And we're going to do our next toes. So let's see here. I'm going to draw. So again, same stuff, Z. And we'll call this toe 1. And I'm going to move it over, make sure it's in the middle, scale it down a bit. So this is on the outside here. Just flat is probably fun. Something like that. And then I'm going to go and duplicate that again. So duplicate, move it over. And then I'm going to duplicate it again. Move it, oops, not do that. Move it over. And then duplicate the last one. And then we should be good. Now before I do anything, I gotta label these. So this one is gonna be toe 2, and this is left and everything, so that's good. Why does it say L2? Oh, you know why? Because we have a front and we have a back. So maybe I should call these rear toes, maybe. So rear or hind toes. Hind H toes. And then F toes. I'll let you label things, but you know we can't have the same names. That's why it's giving me some random stuff here. And this would be 2. Well, you know what? I think it's giving me an R for rear. I think it is, yeah. So, you know, I think we're good. So I think, let me see, is it all R's? They are. Oh, good stuff. We'll go with that for rear. All right, so let me just rename this one. So toe 2, rear. All right, maybe toe rear 2. We'll do that. All right, so let's do this one. They're using RK. Toe 1 rear. We'll do it. We'll follow their naming convention. Devil's in the details, I guess, right? So toe R2, toe R3. Oh, sorry. Fuzz buckets. All right, so toe 3R, which means this one's toe 2R. Toe 2R. It's toe 1R, and that's toe 4R. This is the hardest part. Just getting the naming right. All right, so toe 4R. Okay. Cool. All right, so that's pretty much that. So I'm gonna save. So next thing we want to do is mirror a bunch of stuff. Now before I do, we can put a few things in place. There's these guys here as well. So these are little controllers that you can put by the feet. That'll bring up additional things. What are those things? That's a good question. I forget, but some stuff. And we could move this guy up here, and this one goes over the head. Oh wait, yeah, head. It'll say what it is. So if you're not sure. Now these things, when it gets generated, will be really tiny, so we're gonna have to make those bigger probably. Okay, and now we can make things symmetrical again. So let's see. So I'm gonna go in and do that. So that's this guy, duplicate symmetry. All right, and it's gonna put it over to the other side. So let's grab the hips, which is right here. Now if you're not sure where these things are, there's the hip right there. If you're not sure where these things are, just look in the outliner, right? We want to make sure we're getting the top of the hierarchy. You could also duplicate symmetry here as well, but I'll just use this guy. I could also just hit the G key after I've done it once, I'm pretty sure. That didn't work. All right. I can do the G key if I do it from here, though. All right. So to test that theory out, I'll grab this guy. This guy, I should say. Hit the G. Grab that guy, hit the G. All right. So now we've got a completed rig almost, except for the eye. So hit the G. Now, before I do that, I think that's not quite in the right spot anymore because I moved the head around a bit. So I just want to make sure that's in the middle of the eye. And then G. Cool. I'm going to save. All right, this is part 1. Joint placement. I'm going to end this one here. It's about a half an hour long. Did it need to be a half an hour? I don't know. We kind of talked through some stuff. So the next video will generate the skeleton and we'll do the initial bind. Okay, cheers.